Andrew Johnston, welcome to the Marketing for Business podcast.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks for the opportunity
to
sit down with you and have a bit of a yarn.
So good. We're going to have a great chat. I remember when we first met, it was after the earthquakes. You knew Andreas, my business partner at the time, when I had On Page One Media. And I think Andreas must have rung up. You were part of a coaching network, and Andreas must have rung up and said, hey, does anyone want a couple of guys from Christchurch to come and speak to their clients? And you said, hell yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that was so that was how many years ago was that?
Well, the earthquake is probably about 12 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So I think it was probably 2012. We came to Invercargill.
That's right. Yeah, and with Crow Hallworth.
Yeah,
did that.
Crow Hallworth WHK. I think the name changed while we were doing those workshops and stuff, and I was blown away. Because Andreas was like, let's go to Invercargill. And I was like, why are we going to Invercargill? And then meeting you, and I think we caught up for a coffee, and you kind of talked through a few things. And I remember you taking us upstairs to Crow Hallworth, and I was blown away. Like 2012, there must have been 130 computer screens, and everyone up there had 3 screens each, and they're an accounting firm, and I'd never seen that.
It was like battery hen farming. It was just rows and rows of it.
Yeah, and I was so amazed with the obviously the quality of the people. They were so caring, so thoughtful, hungry to learn. I remember doing a whole day workshop there, and I remember we're writing on the wall. Like they had a new boardroom that we were writing on the wall, and me and you were sharing our information and how to grow businesses, and these people were soaking it up. And then I remember the director of the company, he said, oh, that was fantastic, guys. Would you like a drink? And I was like, yeah, I'd love a drink. We've been talking all day. And he pulled back the wall that we were writing on, and there were these 3 fridges just full of spades. And I was like, this is a good place to be.
This is a good office setup.
Yeah,
that's still there. That's cool. The it's Findex now, and they a lot of people working from home. So the upstairs they've actually reduced the size of the amount of area that they're leasing because so many people working at home. So that what you saw is only is very small now compared with.
But the coolest part about that is, and one of the things when I'm thinking about people I'd like to have on the show, and who can really help our audience, like you're really, really good at understanding business owners, understanding their problems, not just from a business perspective, but also from a financial perspective, and also from a health and wellness perspective. So we're going to have a great chat about that today. And I think that this audience are business owners. They're out there doing the whacking and the cracking every day of New Zealand businesses, and some in there in Australia that are listening. They want help, and I want to bring people that in and can help them. So firstly, let's talk about your experience. Like, where did you, obviously, I met you, you were in the deep dark south of Invercargill, and you're born and bred there, right?
We call it the Sunshine Coast.
Well, you can,
but deep
definitely,
south, as well.
I like that.
So I'll try and nutshell this because it's probably a bit of a wild story, really. I was an engineer for 18 years. I did an apprenticeship and I did some engineering qualifications. And then I got bored with engineering and I started looking around at business. I had quite a few properties and rental properties and things. And I actually flew to Auckland and went to a property investing seminar up there. And there was this guy, Brad Sugars from Action Co.
Nice.
And he was on these big screens with about 500 people and these 2 big screens. And he was talking about how to increase the profitability of businesses. Yeah. And I remember being starstruck with his methodology. And I went home and I started buying his books and listening to his, back then it was CDs, and listening and watching DVDs and all that stuff. And I just immersed myself for a couple of years. And then there was a guy from Christchurch, a business coach, who eventually became a really good friend of mine. He invited me for a free meeting to chat about the businesses I had.
Nice.
And by then I'd had 4, I was still working as an engineer full time, but I had 4 businesses running and about 28 people, I think it was.
Crazy. What type of businesses?
Pretty wild as well. So the first business was an early childhood learning centre that I set up, and within 18 months or so, we had 95 children.
Wow.
In a population, in a village, 400 people.
Wow.
And people would sort of drive through other towns to come to our centre because we had such a good culture. I learned a lot about building culture in that business. And systemisation, of course. And then I bought a supermarket, and then I had a bulk delivery system, and then I was shares in a big silage chopping business as well.
Wow.
So
So early on, you obviously, found that passion, like your engineering brain to some degree was still foreign, but
Mm,
just for a different thing.
mm.
In those early years, when you think about 28 people and you think you're still working, what were some of the lessons that you got from a culture perspective?
So every business, it was interesting because every business gave different lessons. And so it set me up really strongly to work with other business owners
Yeah.
because I had so much of my own personal experience. Whereas because the business coaching industry is unregulated, which means anyone can print a set of business
Yeah.
cards and set up a one-page website and then call themselves a business guru. There's a lot of coaches out there who actually haven't owned their own business.
Yeah, yeah, true.
So, the childcare centre, I learned actually, I learned about having short meetings because the little chairs that you sit on, those little
Yeah.
kids' chairs, you don't want to be sitting on them for too long.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
learned how to make meetings really short. But dealing with, I think I can say this and won't be persecuted, but I'd always dealt with males in
Yep.
terms of engineering.
Yep.
And that was a big lesson for me on how to work with females with the childcare centre
Nice.
because most of them were females. There's the silage. We learnt a lot about depreciating the equipment,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
accounts receivable, and getting money from farmers. In the supermarket, it's pure on, full on retail. And actually, there's some interesting stats on that one because when I took it over, it was doing 15.6% GP, NP. And GP, sorry, what am I talking about? GP, and which is actually reasonably high
Yeah.
for a small supermarket. The bigger supermarkets
Oh,
in New Zealand are 7, 8.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But within 6 months, I increased it from 15.6 to 28.6
Wow.
GP. And I virtually didn't do any marketing. So I learned about how to, the profitability of each product and how to value add products and how to increase profits and also placement. There's a lot I could speak about
Yeah.
retail for a day, but placement of products makes a
Mm.
big difference
Yeah,
to
yeah.
what you sell. Like you want to sell the chocolate biscuits rather than the half chocolate rather than the plain.
Yeah, yeah.
The chocolate ones are a couple of dollars more.
More.
So,
Nice.
so even though the GP might be the same, might be 30% on the biscuits, because you're selling it's $2 more, you're making more money.
Yeah.
So got 30% of that
Yeah.
as well.
And put them in the right area, you're gonna sell more as well.
Yeah. And so there's many lessons across all these businesses, but the bulk delivery system was an interesting one as well because I learned about systemisation real fast
Yeah.
because I couldn't do it myself. It was a few hours a day
Yeah.
in a van, shifting goods around and distributing them around East and Southland. And I systemised that in about 3 weeks. Got up at 5 in the morning, did the runs myself, wrote down everything because and then
Yep.
I employed this guy and I thought, oh, it'll take a week. I'll go out with him for a week to help him train. So I went out with him one day and I gave him the manual that I'd created, the systemisation of it. And I said, oh, Roger, you want me to come tomorrow as well? And he said, no, it's all here. No, it'll be good. And that ran for like 17 years.
Wow.
I didn't go near it.
How good.
It just gave profitability.
Yeah.
So I really learned the strength of systemisation. And, you alluded to the engineering part of me is very handy in
Yeah.
terms of a sequential way of looking at things.
Yeah, totally.
And, I find it easy to map it out and make plans and goals. And so I help a lot of people with that sort of stuff. So when I met that business coach from Christchurch, he looked through everything I was doing there. I had the 4 businesses. I was working as the engineer, and he looked through everything I do. I remember him looking up at me about an hour later, and he said, "Man, I don't think I can teach you much about this. It's in the spirit that most people I know."
Very good.
And he said, "I think you should teach what you know." And I'm Southland, born of a farmer.
Mm.
I said, "No, mate, I don't think so."
Yeah.
And, to his credit, he pushed and pushed for another year. You know the guy, actually, Bruce Wilson.
Yep.
He pushed me for a year and he kept saying, you've got to step out of the engineering. You're not happy.
Yeah.
And so that's when I bought an Action Coach franchise for the South Island. And that very quickly turned into South Island and North Island. And I started working with people in Australia.
Yeah.
And Action Coach, to their credit, they were very good about it. They sort of gave me free license to, in the long story short, I ended up with clients across 19 countries.
Yeah.
And I was doing 100 flights a year.
Wow.
So I did 700 flights in 7 years, which in dollars terms, for me personally, was about 30 grand a year with Air New Zealand.
Yeah, yeah.
About another 30 that other people are paying for.
Yeah.
So to give you an idea of what it takes to be gold elite.
Because you were at the same time with like, you were the coach's coach as well, weren't you?
Yeah.
You know, being the coach's coach, which I thought was really, really cool.
Yeah, that was another wild ride really, because in any franchise there's a master license holder, so it might be master license holder of New Zealand, or it might be of South Island, North Island, and it USA's got different states, different master licenses, but they started inviting me to come and train their coaches, and I ended up in all sorts of crazy places where I'd train the coaches for a few days, and then they'd also say, "Oh, would you mind doing a seminar for our clients?" And so I'd end up working with the clients.
Yeah.
It expanded into, could you come and work with their clients for 3 days? And so it just got bigger and bigger. And it was, Vietnam and China and Cambodia, Indonesia, Malaysia, Dubai, Germany, France. Actually, a really cool one was Euro Disney at France.
Oh, wow.
That's where the venue was. And
Yeah.
there was coaches. I think there was about 20 coaches. I was training there for a few days. And you do a session with them, and you walk outside, and Mickey Mouse would walk past.
So good. So obviously, a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of, I guess, from knowing you as well. I know that you like to learn. You invest in yourself, and you invest in, your systems, your people. When you look at the game of business, when you look back, what are some of the things that you've learned that if an audience was listening here, and look, the economy, people say, oh, in some areas it's harder than others, and things are going on. Like, what would you say are some of the real fundamentals that a business needs to get right to win the game of business?
Good question. I'll start by saying that it's quite different culturally between countries as well, because, for instance, if I compare America and New Zealand business owners, most Americans I've ever worked with have got some sort of qualification.
Yep.
They've gone and done, something in accounting or something in marketing, or they've sort of prepped themselves.
Yeah.
Whereas New Zealanders push the plane off and put the wings on it.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
fall in.
they're building.
Which is cool, but it also gives us a higher failure rate
Yeah.
here as well.
Totally.
So I think one of the biggest thing is, and if we just talk about New Zealand business owners, and maybe including Australia here, is that even though we're real go-getters and quick starters and early adopters and all those cliches that we like to call ourselves,
Yep.
we're undereducated
Yep.
as a rule
Yep.
in our business world, and which
Look,
that's fantastic for me.
No, seriously, yeah, exactly. But with a lot of business owners I meet, I met a lady who actually works with them. They're real accidental business owners, like they haven't like intentionally gone in. They've taken over something, and next minute they've got 3 or 4 people, and next minute they're having to pay wages and having to find more money, and all that. They are accidental. So you're right, they haven't educated themselves on.
Yeah, they get to a stage where they got a tiger by the tail, and they didn't mean to.
Yeah,
They really wanted to go fishing with their mates every
Yeah.
weekend and play
Yeah.
golf on a Friday. Yeah. It's all too common. That's something I have to rein in with.
So knowing that, where should business owners be looking to educate themselves?
There's a big answer to that, really.
Yeah.
I mean,
Because you've got finances, right? Like you kind of have to have a basic understanding of what makes this thing tick. Finance, marketing.
the problem is there's almost too much information out there.
Yeah.
Like you can go on YouTube, anything, and find anything, but
Yeah.
the problem is discerning whether it's good quality information or not.
Totally.
And whether it also relates to exactly what you're doing in business.
Yeah.
And that's why I think guys like me, we niche in. I've worked with all sorts of 500 plus one-to-one business owners, but
Yep.
a lot of a big percentage of that will be trades based or ag service type businesses, because
Okay.
niched in. And it's sort of my farming background and
Yep.
engineering background helps with that. I know what a John Deere is and all
Yeah,
that
yeah.
stuff.
No.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Enough to be dangerous.
Yeah.
And I think so. I give a lot of education, but I also point them in direction. When I do a business plan with them, I give them a reading list or a watching list,
Nice.
and the same sort of. I just had a look at your library here, which is very extensive. It's even better than mine, I think. The drill. All the good guys on marketing and selling,
totally.
finances, and
Yeah.
The other thing I want to drop in there, though, on the financial side of it, is that we business owners in New Zealand tend to run their business straight off the P&L and bank balance.
Yep.
Is there money there? Okay, we'll spend it.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is the P&Ls, the profit and loss, is not actually set up as a business development tool.
No.
It's set up as a tax
Yeah.
so the IRD can tax you every last single dollar out of you, or even more if you've got a bad accountant.
True.
And so one of the lessons I learned very early on was set up a financial cockpit for
Yep.
each business and
Nice.
customize it. And it's always going to be
Talk to me about that. That sounds like some good information people should know about.
Yeah,
Financial cockpit. I like it.
Yep. So, your P&L, you've got the basics of, say, either your turnover or revenue or sales. Accountants seem to like to call it 3 or 4 different things
Yep.
just to confuse you. And then from there, you've got your cost of goods sold.
Yep.
Which is interesting way every accountant seems to lay it out a bit differently. And then you've got expenses.
Yep.
Well, that gives you your GP, and then you've got your expenses, and then you've got your NP.
Mm.
So that's your basics. And then you've got the balance sheet, which people don't really understand. But the balance sheet's called a statement of financial position.
Totally.
Because that's what it is. And it's a snapshot in time. That's why it says as of 31st of March or as of 31st of July. It goes, bang, this is your situation. And the balance sheet should be looked at. I'm getting a little bit sidetracked here, but the balance sheet should be looked at in conjunction, because you need that balance sheet of assets and liabilities to be climbing year after year. If it's going backwards, then there's a problem. So you've only really got those basic things in there. So most businesses I'd include, and you know this better than I do really, is measuring your leads, measuring your marketing, measuring conversion rate. Specific businesses, we might have a calculation where we work out the profitability per hour, or we might have a series of the business loans. If the business has got a couple of loans and an overdraft, we'll start tracking the balances in a financial cockpit as well. That's more to do with psychological, really, because when people see the balance coming down, they're inspired to keep it coming down.
Totally.
And be a bit more thrifty. And,
Yeah.
So it's each sheet. I usually do them in Google Sheets, and I just talk it through in a couple of sessions with my client. What's going to be useful, what they will start filling out.
Nice.
And the reason I put it into that is there's plenty of software packages around out there particularly for trades businesses. You push a button and it does this, and back costs and all this sort of stuff. But when that happens, business owners don't really own the numbers themselves.
Yeah. Okay.
Whereas when they're putting them into a sheet, they have to look at here, and they have to get the number, and they have to type it in, and so they get a feel for what's going in. And that makes a big difference as well, because what you start measuring normally improves.
Yeah, totally.
So
massive believer in that. What are some of the things that you've seen business owners do? What are some of the changes you've seen in business owners when they take control of that financial cockpit? Because it's a massive thing, even in your own financial life. When you can control your finances, the game changes for you.
Yeah. Well, I think, the amount of debt and the amount of living week to week in New Zealand, it causes a lot of stress, and a lot of illness.
Totally.
It's really bad for your body to be stressed like that, and not sleeping and all that sort of stuff. So the business. Sorry, what was the question?
So have you seen
when
you see people, like you give them this information and they start to implement it? What are some of the changes you start to see?
I'll give you an example. There's a couple that were in their 60s that I started working with. It was a few years ago, and they had quite a big business loan. They had a mortgage, big, I don't know, 400,000 on their house or whatever, in their 60s, remember. But worst of all, the business had been making a 40 grand loss for a couple of years.
Ouch.
And they were about to throw the doors closed and put some white paper over the windows. And they met me, and, it's an investment to work with me. So, it was a big amount of money, and they had to put a lot of trust in me. And we turned that round within 2 years. They paid off the business loan, most of the mortgage. They paid off all the credit cards, and they're making about $400,000 profit.
Wow. Wow. So what are some of the levers that you like? Obviously, one thing you got to sort out there is the mindset, because that's a big part of it, right? Like you obviously got through the first hurdle. They chose to believe in you versus maybe believing in themselves at that time, because the belief in themselves probably gone at that point, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So for them to believe in you was a big one. What did you start to do to turn that ship around? Because that's a massive, people, that's, well, it's life changing for a start. So congratulations for doing that, because people can really give up. And what are some of the things? Maybe there's a couple of people here on listening to this going, shit. Similar situation. What could I do to actually get out of that hole? Because it's a massive hole, mentally first.
The first thing I used to beat myself up a lot about, I'd find a lot of people in this situation, and I'd feel I was starting to stress myself out, but it hasn't happened overnight. It didn't happen because of a decision that was
No.
made yesterday.
Yeah, true.
It's been years of decisions. So part of my role is to reverse, and you talked about the mindset, is to reverse that type of thinking that has caused those type of decisions, which has caused the business to get into that situation.
Yeah, yeah.
And that particular one that
That's interesting.
spoke about, one of the big tools we used again was it was a form of financial cockpit. It's I usually do this with trades-based businesses or quote businesses. We set up a back costing sheet.
Yep.
Again, you can have software, you push a button and it puts out the numbers, but the way I do it is very raw data and very, very accurate. And with that business, we realized that the pricing wasn't right. That was one of the very first things.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, pricing jobs, winning jobs, but going backwards.
Right, going back.
Yeah, yeah.
And I usually set them up with a condition formatting. So the GP, we set the GP, say, for 30% or 40%, whatever it's applicable. And if it's below that, it goes red.
Yeah.
And if it's above that, it goes green.
Nice.
We don't want any blood.
Yeah, yeah. How good. But like making that visible and making, because a lot of people, and I've met them, they'll go, oh yeah, we're busy, but making no money.
Yeah.
And it's like, that is the reason why, right?
Mhm.
Pricing stuff, the wrong way, or, there's a whole bunch of things that when you start looking into that, but that's.
Or inefficiencies as well. With
Yeah.
the way they're doing the jobs is a huge thing. Or rework.
Yeah.
When someone has to go back and fix something.
Yeah.
The next day.
Yeah.
That's.
So your job there is obviously shine the light on, hey guys, this is a few things here that we need to change. When you start seeing the change happen, did you start to see the energy shift in those people?
That's why I do it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's so awesome. I've had clients win awards, and I think when I sit there in the black tie event, and and their name gets called out,
Yeah.
but I'm equally emotional as
No, I get that.
because I see the growth that's taken for them to be there.
The work they had to put in, because like you can be the coach, but they still have to do the work, right? Like at the end of the day, they could have still done the work and then still decided to to turn the button off, but they have to do the work, right?
That's the big difference actually between consultants and coaches, because a consultant, you pay them to do a certain thing, like like you might pay them to do your social media or something. But a coach, what I do is I try to teach them the best ways to do things, and encourage them to have a repetitive habit, behavioral pattern that they sit down and they work on their business. It might say marketing, might be that they do 2 hours on Monday morning sorting out all their social media.
Yeah, nice.
So it's getting them to change the decisions they've been making in the past to a different set of decisions to give a different outcome.
That's very rewarding.
I was just about to say it's very rewarding.
Yeah, because you not only see that's a generational shift too, because 400K mortgage, bank loans, credit cards, that's a lot of debt, that's a lot of stress. That and you're right. And this one of the things I think it's really interesting to think about is the decisions that got you there. It wasn't one decision that you made that day. It was a bunch of decisions. And a lot of times as business owners, you meet people and they stop making decisions. And that's a big part of it too. But being able to get yourself out, I think that, and why I believe, we have a coach out of America, amazing guy, just came back from the States from another group of a mastermind, being around other people. One of the guys there is the lead coach of all that. You got to actually get a different perspective. And I think that's what, you and coaches bring to the marketplace. Lucky enough, they work with you because you are across so many different industries, right? And I think that's when I called up with you originally, it was like, oh, you've done all this other stuff, like, because a lot of times business coaches get a bad rap because they've just been a business coach versus someone who's actually been in the trenches and can see what's going on, really.
Actually, I'll expand on that. Just recently, in the sort of last 6 to 12 months, I've seen a lot of advertising going on through social media with coaching firms, and then I run into the back end of it where someone signed up with them for 12 months and then and they weren't happy. And I always ask them, why weren't you happy? And they say, oh, we talked to this main guy and he sold us into the coaching, and then we got this guy and he didn't know anything about
No,
our business,
no.
and he was a rookie. And
Yeah, yeah,
so I know it would be a better business model for me to have a big firm of young
yeah,
coaches and stuff, but it wouldn't give the
yeah.
one-to-one
Well, in the day, it's
me they get.
people pay for your experience, right?
Yeah,
Past experience.
yeah.
The war wounds that you've got are valuable. Which
But
is interesting. Okay, when you look at this, so that's interesting. The winning the game of business. What about winning the game of wealth and wealth building? Because at the end of the day, if you set up your business right, you can actually generate some really good wealth.
yeah.
What's your advice there, and what should people be thinking about when they start to make
Mm,
business profitable and start to make some of this money?
good question. Actually, before I answer it, I'll just uh, tell you this as well, that when I work with business owners, so obviously financial performance and systems and making the business easy to run and all that sort of stuff is one bucket. Another one is the health and wellness of the business
Yeah,
owner,
totally.
and I'd love to expand on that actually.
We definitely will.
Yep. And then alongside that is investing, and so it depends. Every client's a bit different. Some of them have already got their own home paid off, or they've got a rental property, and some of them haven't. And there was a guy years ago. It was this was really rewarding as well, and he had a music shop in Invercargill. I think you might have met him,
Yes,
and
I know the guy.
really nice guy, typical muso. Possibly shouldn't have been in business. Well, he was like, he was great with customers and all that, but they don't care so much about money. But he
No.
was living with his mum, and she was in her 80s, and the house wasn't going to end up with him because his siblings. And so, once we took that business, when I met him, it was doing just 400,000 a year, and we took it to 900,000,
Wow.
but with huge amount of profit. And I sat him down and said, hey, I think you really need to be looking around for a house.
Yeah.
He said, oh, you think so? I said, well, your mum's, she's not going to be here forever. And, what are you going to do? I said, oh, and then this was funny, and I say this to a lot of people. I said, your first mission is to go and flush 100 toilets.
Yeah, yeah.
So go look at 100 properties and learn.
Nice.
So a couple of weeks later, I'm talking to him, and I said, oh, have you looked at some properties? He said, yeah, I've looked at 2, and I bought the second one. And it was just before everything started to skyrocket in pricing
Oh,
a
wow.
few years ago. So he did really well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. But it's so rewarding to help a guy like that who, his future might have been a bit patchy
Yeah.
otherwise.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but once again, a 500K increase in revenue, that's pretty extraordinary, right? And just getting more focused, more motivated, and at the end of the day, good businesses are profitable, right? So with cash, and then buying investments like that is a smart thing to do.
Yeah. And just on the investment side of things, there's so many different angles. I actually wrote a little piece that I put in the first month. I do we call it a business alignment
Yep.
report, and I put 3 or 4 pages that I've written about investing. There's 3 buckets. Business, you can invest in another business, which I normally don't recommend because they've normally got more than enough on their plate trying to run one business without having to recruit and market and all the stuff for another business. Unless it's something they can bolt on, like they can
Complementary kind of stuff. It's going to add
they
value.
hire a little digger out,
Yeah, yeah.
something like that. So there's business, and then the second bucket is this share market and crypto and that sort of stuff, and which has got good solid returns in there, but not very exciting for most people probably, but
No.
it's not bad. And the last one's property. And there's so many different ways. People think, when they think property, they think 3-bedroom with garage, rental property. But there's so many, there's storage units, there's Airbnb, and you put a cabin up in the wood, and you got a mate with a farm, put it up in the corner of a farm.
Yeah, yeah.
There's all sorts of ways of doing it. And then there's a fourth auxiliary one that I also mentioned in there. One of my friends has got a house. It's probably, I don't know, a couple $1 million, but the artwork in it is worth more than the house.
Wow.
And so it's been a hobby of his to keep buying artwork because he just loves it. And whenever I've been in there, I'll be in the hallway and I'll say, oh, that's cool. And he goes, oh yeah, that's such and such. He'll give me the history on it. He'll say, I paid $2,000 for that, but that's worth about 25 now.
Wow.
And so every painting in that house is, well, as far as I know,
Yeah.
another friend of mine is he's got some 80s Yamaha motorcycles.
Yeah, nice.
And he bought them when he's got might be some people know, he's got an RZ 500, which is probably worth 40 or 50 grand, but he would have paid about 8 grand for that.
Classic.
Originally.
So kind of knowing what you're interested in,
Yeah.
and then investing the money in the likes of your, your paintings, your collectibles, that type of stuff, right?
Yeah, you can have some fun with it along the way.
Yeah.
It's can be a little bit hard selling it at the other end.
Yeah.
But emotional.
Yeah, but if you've, like if you've done the other stuff well, you can also buy the stuff and keep it. I know a mate of mine's got a lot of shoes, and he's going to keep them and he'll pass them on as generational. Like he's probably got some of the most expensive sneakers you can get, right? And he will, I guarantee he will pass them on, like, and they'll be worth, and probably the third generation, these old things, and sell them.
I should have kept my old Nike pumps from the 80s.
Yeah, your Reebok pumps. Reebok pumps. Yeah. Yeah, well, Shaq and Allen Iverson are bringing that back, right? So yeah. So what I'm hearing there is obviously, there's some fundamental things, buying a business, buying another business. I don't recommend that too. If you're doing the whacking and the cracking of your own business, stay focused. I do agree with adding on another component to it. Like for us, we're adding on an AI component to the business where, that becomes a profitable arm.
Yep.
We have the podcast, that's its own IP and all that sort of stuff. So there's obviously other ways, but I wouldn't go out and buy another business that I had to start working in, like
or learning about,
right? And it's funny enough, like, because I've had a number of offers recently to buy other businesses. People come in to me, hey, would you buy this? Would you buy this?
Me too.
And I always look at it and then go, and just a couple of days later, hey, not for me. But because I don't want to be distracted, and I think that's the point you make, right? Then the share market. Personally, I love the share market. And that's another world for me. I love that. And then obviously property. But I never thought of the other one really. I think that's a good idea. Like, putting some of the stuff that where you like. I could be buying cricket bats,
old guns, CDs, all sorts of stuff.
So what I'm hearing though, like if you make some money, obviously invest it in other things. Don't like you definitely put some money back into the business, but make sure. And I think this is something I've been really, really intentional of, is taking some money out of the business and putting it into other assets. I learned it from a guy, James, I can't remember, he's an English guy, and he talks about fast pounds and slow pounds. And business is your fast pounds, property, share market, all that sort of stuff, slow pounds. Make sure you're taking some money off the table and putting it into that other stuff.
That's a good way of looking at
it. Yeah. And he's a really successful business owner. And I just really love that way of thinking, and he had a certain percentage that he would put into his slower pounds. And obviously over the years, the slower pounds become the fast pounds.
Because they start seeing the cumulative. If the Y equals E to the X curve.
So this has been great. We've talked about the winning the game of business, winning the game of finance, and I'm sure we'll have other conversations as we go. But let's talk about winning, because I know this is an area that you're really passionate about, is winning the game. No point winning the business game, winning the wealth game, and then being unhealthy. So let's talk about health and wellness, because I know that's a big part of where you've kind of moved your focus to now. So how do you help people with that now?
So when I do the alignment process in that first month with most people, they'll put in on the personal question section. And they'll put that they want to lose 10 kgs or 20 kgs, or they'll want to get fitter, or they want to do an event, or there's always some sort of health and wellness.
Nice.
Or they want to get rid of their autoimmune problems or whatever it is. And so we build that into the plan, and it's a little bit different for everybody. But I'm 58 now, and when I was about 50, I started to get sore joints, and I was overweight by 20 kgs, probably 25. And I started to realize I was getting a lot of aches and pains. And I thought, man, I don't want this. I don't want to go down this path. Is there anything I can do? And so just by coincidence, really, I joined a new gym. And the guy there, same age as me, Brett Cullen, and he guided me on what to do. And
nice.
So, I was asking sort of uneducated, I was going to say dumb, but they're not dumb questions. They're uneducated questions. I'd say, what sort of exercise is best to lose weight?
Nice.
And he'd say, you don't lose weight through exercise. And I say, yes, you do.
Yeah.
So no, it's through nutrition. And so the very first thing that I had to do, and this is what I talk to my clients about a lot when they have those types of goals, is changing their nutrition. And I did about a year's research on what to eat and when to eat and what types of food and all that sort of stuff. And then I started into it, and within 7 months, I lost 25 kg.
Wow.
And then that was a few years ago.
Did people say, "Man, what's wrong with you? Are you sick?"
No,
No?
most people said, "No, you've lost
Yeah.
weight."
Yeah, nice.
Looking-
That's a lot though.
Yeah, and then so that was a few years ago. And then the other thing about it is there's a lot of systems out there so you can lose weight, like powdered drinks,
Yeah.
man shakes.
Yeah, the man shake.
Yeah. But they're not
$400
really-
million business, by the way.
Is it?
$400 million business.
Yeah, I see it around a lot. But the problem is most of those things aren't sustainable, and
No.
they're often really highly priced.
Yep.
And
400 million.
400
There's a
million.
bit of margin.
There's pricing in there somewhere. And also, if you really look into the ingredients, a lot of that stuff slides through under health and wellness rather than under our normal food regulations. So there's a lot of nasties and sugars, and it's processed.
Mm.
And that was something I learned really early on: is get away from carbs, get away from sugar, and get away from processed foods. So a carnivore or a ketovore or a keto type diet is usually the best way. And I've been carnivore for almost a year now, so that means I just eat. And people who haven't heard of this will probably think I'm a weirdo, but I'm not really a weirdo, am I?
No.
No. And so it's just food from animals. So all the meats, red meats, white meats, fish, anything seafood, eggs, I was going to say chicken. Chicken's in there as well. Eggs, butter, cheese, yogurt, cottage cheese, all those sort of.
Yeah, nice.
And it is mind blowing how many different superb meals you can
Yeah.
from all those combinations.
Yeah.
Combinations. I lost another 7 kgs here, and I've got a lot of clients onto carnivore as well. But the most important thing was, because you're eating so much protein, your body composition starts changing, and so the fat to lean muscle starts changing a lot. And that's something for anybody who's listening to this. You should go and find a gym that's got one of those scanners.
Yep.
They call them a DEXA, or the one I use is an eVolt. I think that's a branding name. And you want to in your local town, so you can come back every 3 months. It's like $20 or $30 to do a scan, and it'll even tell you how much lean muscle you got on your left arm, how much you got on your right, how much fat you've got there, what's your water composition, all that sort of stuff.
How does it measure that stuff though?
Yeah, it's magic.
Yeah.
The fairy dust.
That's what I'm doing.
It puts an electrical current through your body in it.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you switch to a high protein, high fat diet, that makes a huge difference to your body composition, and you start to gain muscle. And then, in terms of longevity, there's a few things. Well, there's quite a few tests, but grip strength is one of them. So how because if you've got strong forearms, and because I've raced motorbikes for years, I've got strong forearms anyway. But if you haven't, it's an indicator that your longevity may not be as long, because it means that probably the rest of your body isn't muscle either.
Yeah.
And muscle also, that's right. And muscle also protects you a lot. You've all heard of the person who falls over and breaks their hip in the 70s. And the stats on that aren't good. It's something like within a couple of years, 50% of those people aren't here.
Wow.
Because, they haven't had the muscle to protect it, and they've fallen over, so they've broken it, and then their body's old and they've got right nutrition to fix it correctly. So what the guy Brett Cullen taught me right from the beginning was, you want quality of life for as long as you can.
Yeah, totally.
And so you want to do things that make your body feel good and remove all the inflammation. Most people walk around with a lot of inflammation in their body, and that causes all sorts of problems: kidney problems, liver problems, hypertension, so blood pressure. Actually, interesting on the blood pressure side of things, my doctor, actually I'm gonna sidestep here as well. So the problem with doctors is they become drug dealers.
Yeah, totally.
Because you go to them and they go, "Oh, you got high blood pressure."
Yeah.
We'll check that next time. And you come back and next time they go, "Oh, you got high blood pressure. Oh, you better take this pill for the rest of your life."
Yeah, totally.
Instead of saying, "You've still got high blood pressure. How about you write down all the foods you're eating for the next 3 weeks, come back and we'll go through it and we'll see what's causing that."
Yeah.
So I'd been lured into that as well, because my blood pressure was 150, 160 on the high end. But when I lost weight, and especially when I went on to carnivore, it just went boom, 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 boom down.
Wow.
And it got down to like 60, 110. And that's another thing I think everyone should do, is buy a blood pressure monitor. Use it on the same arm at the same time every night. And record it into an app and just watch your own blood pressure. And so it went down, down, down. And then, so I took myself off the blood pressure medication. And then, I was in at the doctor a month later and I said, I'm not taking that anymore. And he was really shocked.
Yeah.
And
Why every night, by the way? Why take it every night?
just for consistency.
Okay.
Just the number of readings.
Yep.
Just to give you the pattern. Actually, nowadays, my blood pressure is so sensitive because I don't eat sugar. If I did have some sugar or processed foods,
Yep.
that night, there's a spike in the blood pressure.
Wow.
Now, I'm no doctor or I'm not a PT, I'm not a nutritionist,
Yeah.
but I can see the pattern of
Wow.
what's happening. It goes along, because I do include a cheat meal each week for myself personally.
Yep.
Otherwise, I'd probably go nuts. So I can have a hamburger or a pizza or whatever I want, just one meal.
Yep.
And that night, it's always spiked up. It'll be,
Yeah.
be 130, 140 instead of 110 or 100.
Yep.
So, I've started a lot of people on carnivore. And then secondary to that is resistance training.
Yep.
And all the research I've done for years really points at, there's all sorts of good benefits for running with cardiovascular fitness and, rowing and biking. And I do a lot of mountain biking as well. But in terms of having a physique that's strong and fit and flexible, the resistance training just wins hands down.
Yep.
And that's going to the gym and lifting heavy, like straining the muscles. I look around the gym sometimes and there's young guys and they're on their phone. They've got the phone in one hand, they're doing some little exercise.
Yeah.
I think, dude, you should just go home and sit on the couch because you get the same result.
Yeah.
But the person who goes in, and this, I teach my clients this as well. Sometimes I take them to the gym, and I've got one client who's going to Brett Cutlam now, and he's training with him 3 times a week. And he loves it. But I get them lifting heavy and really putting.
What's the benefit of heavy weights?
To muscle growth.
Muscle growth. Okay.
Because when you lift heavy weights, and this sounds a little bit gross, but the fibers in the muscles stretch a little bit.
Yep.
And then for the next 48 hours or so, they heal back in that place. And that's why lifting weights, your muscles get bigger and bigger.
Bigger.
As you get older, of course, it's harder to put on muscle.
Yeah.
So last year I put on 6 kgs lean muscle, which was quite a bit. But it's the diet.
Yeah.
Well, I don't like calling it a diet. It's the nutrition and hard resistance training. And then my cardio, in terms of cardio, I don't get too worried about it, but I said I do a lot of mountain biking or e-biking, but it's probably only every couple of weeks, which would be a couple of hours. So I don't do a lot of cardio, but it seems to work. And the last thing I wanted to throw in there was most people over 50 should be looking at stretching.
Okay.
And that's transformed particularly my body because I did a lot of motorbike racing and I'm still a keen motorcyclist. And over the years, I had a couple of instances where I might have come off and broke in total 27 bones.
Wow. Jeepers.
And a punctured leg. And so I had a lot of tissue damage and my flexibility was really compromised.
Yep.
So I really worked hard on that. There's an app, people might be interested. It's a really good, it's called Pliability.
Pliability. Nice.
Pliability. And it used to be called ROMWOD, and it was designed for CrossFitters. And it's like yoga, but it's static holds. So you get into a stretch and then you just slowly, over a minute or 2 minutes, or however long it is, sometimes it's 5 minutes holds, you sink into and you stretching the muscle gradually into it. Super nice in a warm, half-dark room in the evening, about an hour after dinner. Perfect.
Nice.
Nice way to finish it. And it sort of sets you up for sleeping as well.
Yeah.
It's nice. So I really encourage people to, particularly as you get older, when you go to the gym, don't launch into weights and just start throwing stuff around.
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time, probably first 20 minutes is just doing light, high repetition, stretching and really stretching right through the whole movement.
Nice.
Then I'll start lifting heavy. So that's really transformed my life. And then I've encouraged quite a few of my clients over the years to join Pliability as well, and they love it as well.
Yep. So they just do it themselves, or you can go somewhere and do it? Or?
No. Well, I mean, gyms offer all that sort of stuff, but this is what I like about this is I roll out my mat in my office. Pull up my green screen, roll out my mat, a couple of yoga blocks, and I do it on the set it going on the computer, and and they narrate it through, and some of them are. The shortest ones are about 15 minutes a day. The longer ones are 50 minutes.
Okay.
But you can also pick and choose. Oh, I like that one, so you add it as a favorite. And so you end up, I've got a favorite this long.
How good.
Yeah, it's very, very good. And it's people don't think about stretching much,
No.
but it's, you know, your hips start getting compromised, your ankles, you know,
Yeah.
and then you,
We all know, right? Like,
yeah,
it's harder to put your shoelaces, your shoes on,
that's right.
like all those little things that you took for granted
Yeah.
when you were younger. When you get older, like, just it does help. Where have you seen, like, some of the gains for people that started doing this from a mental aspect, and like, obviously, healthy mind, fit mind, fit body, fit business.
Yeah. More energy is the biggest one.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of business owners are pretty worn out from the stresses of running their business. And if you've got good nutrition and you're doing some weightlifting and you're doing some stretching,
Yeah.
you've got way more energy and way more clarity of mind.
Yeah.
You know, you don't get that foggy brain.
Yeah.
And I find that as well. If I don't work out for a few days, I start to slump, you know,
Yep.
it starts to wind
Yeah.
down. So I keep at it because it just makes me feel good. I also do some crazy stuff like a cold plunge for 3 minutes every morning,
Yeah. Nice.
which it's not for everybody. That's quite hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard for me every time I have to fight. It's a battle of the wills. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
get in there, you idiot. Come on.
Yeah.
That's like,
And is
yeah,
that like helping inflammation?
yeah, it's not that I know what cocaine's like, but it feels like that would be what cocaine would be like when you get out for the next 4 or 5 hours. You have this elevated sense of sort of euphoria, I suppose, because it activates dopamine, but it also activates the brown fat cells, which helps with fat burning.
Okay.
And you mentioned it too. It really helps with recovery,
Yeah.
big time. It helped. You know, I went down at the start. I don't get sore nowadays, but because I do so much of it, but you know, for many years, I would train hard, you know, train chest or something, and I wouldn't be able to train chest for 4 or 5 days.
Yeah. True.
I'd just be too sore.
Yeah.
But with cold plunging, it would go down to 1 day.
So do you just walk outside and the Invercargill air just like plunge into that, or what do you do?
It's
Like,
harsh if you're coming from Christchurch, man, because it's cold up here.
do you ever like because I know a couple of people who have cold plunges, but you can dial them up or down.
Yeah.
How do you do it?
So mine's pretty crude. I just bought, and anyone can do this. It was like less than $200. I bought a tub, and I've got a full tile bathroom.
Yep.
And so I stuck it in the corner beside the shower, so I can. I actually normally have a quick warm shower to get all the greases off, because
Yep.
you don't want it in the water.
Yep.
Do the cold plunge, and then have a quick warm shower. And
Nice.
And so mine's higher temperature than most. So probably 10, 11 degrees would be good. Probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I mean, there's one here at Iron Hood in Christchurch.
Yep.
I think it's 7.
Yep.
And it feels cold. I've done that a few times. But mine's about 12 or 13 degrees, but it still has the benefits
Yeah.
in that temperature.
Very good.
And it changes a little bit, you know, winter to summer, the house is a little bit warmer or colder.
Yeah.
The next step up from that, you have to go from $200 to like $4 or $5 grand for one with the refrigerated
Yeah. Yeah.
unit.
Nice.
Fits and fit.
And what do you, when you look back, what's the gift that business coaching and business and this journey has given you?
Oh, wow. Wow, that's a great question. It's just got to be, well, the two things: immense satisfaction,
Yeah.
watching other people achieve, and I'm probably in some ways I'm a bit guilty of being more enrolled in other people's success than my own in
Yeah.
some ways. And the other one is personal growth. You know, when I started, I remember saying to that guy Bruce Wilson, agreed to it, and I said, "Oh, there won't be any public speaking, will there?" And he said, "No, there won't be much of that. No."
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, within a year, so they got a ranking system in that action coach thing, and within a year, I was ranked number 1 in the world out of 1,000 coaches, and so everybody wanted me to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
And every time there was this noise like this, that was my knees knocking together. And I worked my way up, and then I wrote my book, and we launched it, and we translated it into Vietnamese, and it's turned out to be a bestseller. Actually, it sold over 6,000 copies. But I ended up launching it in Vietnam to 1,000 people through a translator for 3 hours.
Wow.
And
That's cool.
In Ho Chi Minh City, and then another 1,000 in Hanoi, and another 400 in a provincial coastal town. And I thought, when I went onto that stage with 1,000 people, I thought, I think I've come a fair way, really.
Yeah.
I've grown a lot
Yeah.
to be able to get out there and speak to a big audience like
Yeah.
that. So I think, that personal growth, that never would have happened if I was an engineer. I would have gone into corporate management stuff, would have been caught in that hamster wheel probably, and I wouldn't have had that sort of growth
Yeah.
that I've had to have to grow into
Yeah.
my goal.
I think that's the important thing, right? Like, because I believe business is one of the biggest personal development games, right? Like, you have to mentally, be on so you can actually help other people. And the
Yeah.
thing is, helping other people is a byproduct. Like, success is a byproduct of helping other people. Like,
Yeah.
the greatest probably, Brent McFall told me in 2006, don't worry about, what you're doing, just help other people. Give value in advance of them ever giving you any money and you'll be fine. And then all of a sudden, if you care about other people, you want them to be successful because it's going to flow to you afterwards, right? I think was it Zig Ziglar said it best, help enough people get what they want first, and you never have to worry about what you want, right? And it's like when you read it first, you go, "Oh, okay." But if you come at from another mindset, you start to learn. You do start to learn helping others is the key to getting what you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
You might have to stay in the queue a bit longer, but that's the way the game's played.
But also that staying in the queue a bit longer allows you to grow into it as well.
Totally.
Because if you went from zero to hero in 12 months, you would do some reckless things. And I've had a couple of young clients. There was one. This was an interesting one. He phoned me from Wellington. I won't mention names, but he phoned me from Wellington. He said, "Oh, here you coach, near Queenstown. I've heard really good things." And I started asking him questions about the business. And I said, "So what sort of turnover is it doing?" And he says, "Oh, we're doing about 30 a month, 30." And I said, "Oh, 30,000 turnover a month." He said, "No, 30,000 profit a month."
Oh,
I said, "Profit? Yeah, sure." And he says, "Yeah, 30,000." But he said, "Oh, it's got heaps more scope than that." He said, "Look, I'm shifting down to Queenstown in 6 months' time. I'll get back in touch." And I thought, okay, that was a one-off. I'll
yeah.
never hear from him. 6 months later, he phones me. "Hey, I'm in Queenstown now." And I said, "Oh, so how's your business going now?" He says, "Oh, we're doing about 130. And I said, what 130 what? And he said, 130 profit a month.
Wow.
I said, "You're kidding. That's amazing. Right, let's go." And so I started working with him. And one of his first goals was to buy a very fancy sports car,
Yeah.
360 grand. And I sat him down and said, he was only 28 years old. And I said, "Look, I really don't think that's the best move. I think you need to buy a house for yourself. You haven't got a house." And so he bought a house, he bought a commercial building, he bought another commercial building because he had a lot,
Yeah, money.
lot of money.
Totally.
Yeah. And, I worked with him for probably a year, and I worked with his team and then in Queenstown. And then I didn't see him for a few years. And then I saw he had an Evo 7 or 8 or something, Mitzi thing, and with all his signage on it. And I saw it in a car park. So I texted him to a car park down here or in Vicardo. And I said, "Oh, you still got the Evo?" He said, "Yeah, you're right." He said, "The Porsche can wait. The Porsche can wait."
Nice.
And then, I don't know if I should tell you this part of the story, but a couple of years later, there was a post on Facebook, and it was a brand new Porsche upside down in a ditch.
Oh,
And he bought the Porsche and he ran it off the road.
ran off the road.
And
Oh,
tipped
well.
it up. But that just helping, I've seen some wild stuff happening with young business owners who I don't think
Yep.
becoming successful, just looping this back to our
Yeah.
original conversation, I don't think becoming successful overnight is a very good thing.
No.
A bit like lotto winners.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, they didn't keep it.
no, it's just, it vacuums
Yeah.
out. So I think that steady personal growth for me, working with business owners has just been a nice pace.
Yeah.
Been good.
Yeah, it's a good gift to get. Like, personal growth is something that you, as you say, grow into. And you're learning. You're constantly learning. I know for me personally here, I've got staff and team members here, and I teach them about finance. I teach them about. So I just had a chat this morning with one of the young girls, Bronte. She pretty much everyone here will have a house, and then she's learning the bit from the Barefoot Investor, where her marketing, where her money's going. She's got certain buckets set up, and she's reading the book again, and it's really cool to hear, some of the things that they're doing financially. And it really doesn't matter how much you earn; it's what you do with it,
Yeah.
And I wish, someone had pulled me aside one day when I was, in my 20s and gone, "Hey, by the way, you should be doing this, and this." So I find that's really rewarding to be able to give back like that, because you learn stuff along the way. You can then teach it as well.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's the extension of that is too, because I encourage my clients, say it's a builder and he's got young guys got apprentices.
Mm.
So I have that conversation with them. I say that those young guys there, you're going to have probably one of the biggest impressions on their lives from
Totally.
their working lives.
Yeah, yeah.
And so you've got an opportunity to encourage them to stop putting a finance on a Ford Ranger
Mm,
used,
yeah.
and saving for a house. And so I've seen clients encouraging their apprentices, and then apprentices find a house, and then it's scruffy as hell,
Yeah.
the first house.
Yeah.
And then he contributes, he gives them the materials at wholesale. And
Nice. That's so cool.
and you imagine in 30 years' time, they're going to say, that first boss, he was
Yeah.
so good. And
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I had a similar thing, Scott. It's a bit of a sad story, but I was flatting in a house with a friend of mine, and the house was owned by his father, and he was going to buy the house off his father. And him and his girlfriend were in a Ford Capri. Remember the old Ford?
Yeah, yeah.
And they're going out Ravensdown,
Mm.
going out to Portobello at Port Chalmers at Dunedin, and the car slid off the road and it slipped down a bank.
Oof.
And unfortunately, there was a big, it cut some trees, and there was these sort of 2-inch diameter stumps, and they were
Yeah.
sticking out of the ground.
Oh.
One of them came through the window, hit Chris on the head.
Oh.
And then when the car stopped, he was dead.
Oh, no.
And so his father came to me and said, I was going to sell Chris the house. Would you be interested? And here's the deal. And so he wanted it paid off in 4 years. And I was an apprentice.
Wow.
And I remember my first paycheck was $192. And so I said yes. And I made it work. I really had to be thrifty and had to be clever with it. And I paid that first house off for 4 years.
Yeah.
And kept it.
Making it work.
Kept another 27 years.
Yeah, yeah.
But he gave me the break.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that guy for giving me that break.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think it's cool for business owners when they get into that position where they can, is to really help the guys, the key people in that.
Yeah. Keep people in their business, help them and see the opportunities. Hey man, this conversation's gone fast, 56 minutes. I'm gonna put you on the spot because you're a world-class coach. Just imagine you're in business, you've been in business 3 years, you're starting to make some money, but you're not sure if it's ever going to take off. What are 5 things that you would say to that person if you were having a conversation with them?
Pay your taxes.
Pay your taxes?
No, well, what I mean by that is that 3 years is an interesting time frame.
Yeah.
Because what happens is the first year or the first 2 years are pretty easy going.
Yeah.
People get all the GST
Totally.
back.
Yeah.
There's no provisional to pay. And then all of a sudden, the second year and the third year, they hit with huge tax implications. And that's where they feel like they're not quite as clever as they thought they were.
Yeah, totally.
So the first thing is you've got to have a good accountant. I've got to say, you've got to have a good business coach. I've also got to say that. But you've got to have a good accountant who's invested in minimizing the tax for you.
Nice.
Because don't get me wrong here in tax. I believe that we all should pay taxes because we want to have street lighting and parks, asphalt roads.
Totally.
And if you want to argue with how that money's spent, then you need to become a lobbyist.
Yeah.
But I don't want to pay $1 more because as a business owner, and most business owners out there, we're paying a lot more tax than most people.
Yeah, totally.
And so, than most employees. So that would be the first one, would be the tax. Second thing is they need to put time aside to work on themselves and work on their business.
Yeah, nice.
And that can be anything from, learning more about marketing or AI or systemising something in the business, but just that consistent pattern behavior of every week I'm going to work on the business.
Yeah. And if you have to, you get up early to do that.
Get up early, start.
Just do whatever it takes. Yeah. Jim Rohn probably said it best, work hard on yourself and you're doing your job. Like take that time to the conference I was just at, iron sharpens iron. That's the thing. And you have to be sharpening what you're doing.
Yeah, that's good. Iron sharpens iron. It's like that, the wood chopper story, isn't it?
Yeah.
Guys,
spend the time sharpening. And that's what you're talking about. Working on yourself is sharpening. Because if you have more skills, more knowledge, better ways of implementing and taking action because of the things that you've learned, it's a gift. I realized that when I started learning stuff and then starting putting it into action, I realized I had a superpower because other people weren't doing it. And I could do stuff quicker and faster because speed at the end of the day, speed of implementation will help you win the game.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people, because they don't have anything new that they've gone through, they stall. But if you're working on yourself and you're learning about AI and then speed of implementation, you can implement it. Well, sorry, but you can't catch me.
No. No, it's true. And people tend to throw their hands up in the air. They get, it's too hard. Yeah. Hard to learn. But the thing is, I work with a lot of younger clients and I have to keep up with the tech.
Choose your hard, man.
Choose your hard, because it's hard if you don't learn
if
about
you
it,
don't learn about it. Yeah,
it's really
yeah.
difficult.
Well, it's going to be hard another way, right? You're going to be hard because you're not going to make as much profit, or you're not going to be in business, because
Yeah.
someone else is going to come along and take it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see this all the time with, especially I think transitions generational. We see the next generation come in and they're too cruisy.
Yeah.
They're way boating and they're
Yeah,
golfing and
yeah.
not worrying about the business so much.
Which, don't get me wrong, I'm all for lifestyle,
Yeah.
but not at the cost of,
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Work on themselves. What's number 3?
Number 3 would be look after your body. It's only
Nice.
you
Yeah.
only get one vessel, and alcohol and smoking and processed foods and carbs and sugars and all that sort of stuff.
Mm.
It's going to catch up with you.
Yeah.
And we all know that, we see somebody that we haven't seen for 10 years.
Yeah.
And like, whoa.
Yeah.
Or you can have it the other way where people go, man, you're looking good.
Yeah. Nice.
I just went to a reunion originally I did my apprenticeship at the Matera Paper Mill, which is a very, very, very good place to do an apprenticeship, and really, really good people. And I went for a tour there, and I was quite shocked how, so many people, to be fair, it's been 34 years since I've been in the building.
Yeah.
But I sort of felt like one of the youngest there because I've kept in shape.
Yeah.
But everyone else has sort of let themselves go, unfortunately. Still great guys. So look after your body, because that's going to...
one body.
That's going to be big. Learn how to manage people is a big one. And I'll include in that, recruitment is interesting. It happens just about everywhere in the world, where people run some sort of marketing to attract an applicant. Then they sit down for half an hour with an interview, and they make a decision off that. And and they're probably going to pay them $80,000 for the next 3 years. That's $250,000.
Yeah.
And they made the decision on 60 minutes.
Yeah. Crazy.
And so learn how to, learn about personality profiling, learn about how to set up practical tests for roles in your business. I'm a big fan of people, if they, get it down to the last 2 or 3, invite them to come and work and pay them for a day or 2 days or even a week work. Get them to take holidays from where they are, take Friday off. Best interview you can ever do, because you'll see all the nuances that they might have been hiding in the...
So true. It's a great takeaway that you said there, though. Like, I've been guilty of this. You hire someone for a really good role, but you've only known them for maybe 2 hours, 3 hours.
Yeah. And you're putting the trust of the success of your business in that area. I did the same. I made a lot of hiring mistakes back in the old days. And on top of that is, of course, managing people and coaching people. And I think, that's a huge skill that is not done very well. By most business owners. Because they gripe to me about employees. Sometimes I have to be quite blunt about it.
Well, they who hired them.
Who hired them. And, who's, when they complain about something that's happening, it's usually a reflection of something they've done.
Totally.
So,
Cool. Number 5.
Number 5, what would I say? Number 5, you must watch the financial performance of your business. I meet way too many business owners. They say, "So what sort of turnover are you doing?" "Oh, I don't know. I'd have to ask the accountant." "Well, what did you do last month? How much did you do?" "Oh, I don't know. Oh, my wife. Hang on, I'll bring it up." And I'm thinking, dude, you should know that. You should know what your business is doing. So, just the basics of that dashboard we were talking about, knowing those numbers and being able to respond quickly and go, "Oh, we did. We're up about $4,000 last month." Or we're down 10 grand or whatever it is.
Dialing those numbers in is so important. But I think it comes down to also, having a focus on all those areas, right? And look, let's be honest, business owners, it's hard. Like, it's, as I said at the start, well, during the middle here, it's the hardest personal development game, because there's so many things happening. And I think that's why you should do what number 1 is, like, pay professionals to help you. Get a good accountant, get a good business coach, like, get people who can give you that view, 30,000 foot view looking down, and puts a spotlight on a couple of these areas, because finance is one of those areas you should be putting a spotlight on, and should knowing those numbers, because knowing those numbers is powerful, right? It gives you the ability to make changes if you need to, or double down on some things that are working really well, right?
There's some really interesting just small things that people, because they don't understand the financials well enough. Like, the government just recently brought in this rule where they said, we'll give you 20%
Depreciation.
Depreciation. So
Yeah.
everybody thinks, oh, rush out and get a car.
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
another
No,
20.
no, 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 no.
No, no, no.
No, no, no.
It's only 6%.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Because it's just allowing you to claim the depreciation
Yeah.
sooner.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, but I had to explain that to most of my clients and do it on a whiteboard. And then they go, oh, so I'm probably not better to get another Toyota
No.
Hilux.
No. No. Yeah, and that's the understanding the narrative or the sales job versus what's really going on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they say that sort of stuff because they want people going out there and doing that, right? And then realizing later. Yeah.
Well, that was a very clever strategy by the government because it pumps up the sales.
Yeah.
And they guess where they win on the GST.
On GST, everything else going on. Yeah.
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 So it was a pretty slick move, really. And the way they presented it, I think, was a bit unethical, saying you get 20% more off.
Not sure government people are unethical, Andrew. What do you say?
Oh, no, in our country, they're fine.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, man, this has been a great conversation. Where do people go if they want to get a hold of you?
And top of a mountain on an e-bike.
Yeah. Nice.
or on a fast motorbike. So my business is New Zealand Business Development. If people Google that, we come up in lots of places. Or just Google Andrew Johnston. But the book I mentioned before, the main one, the first one I wrote, is called Small Changes, Big Results. And when you put that in, it comes up on Amazon and Fishbone.
So small changes, big results.
Small changes, big results. I meant to bring a book today. I thought I had one on the blood bonds, but I didn't. And there's email details in there as well. But if people just Google Andrew Johnston, Business Development,
we'll put all the details in the show notes. So we'll link to the book.
Awesome.
And you do much on LinkedIn at all?
I do.
Yeah, so we'll put your LinkedIn profile there as well.
Not much, but I do a bit on it.
Yeah,
I just don't like the way that works, really.
Yeah. That's all right. But you're from the south. You're from the deep south.
I'll grow into it.
Yeah. That's a great way. It's a great way for people to connect with other people, and I think like putting your content out there.
Well, feel free to find me on LinkedIn as well if anyone wants to connect up.
Awesome. All right. Hey, well, this has been a fantastic chat. I know people will get some really good value out of this, and maybe tag us in on LinkedIn. Tag us in on one of the things that Andrew said here, and whether you disagree or agree. Like we always love that. We love conversations.
Feedback.
Give some feedback. It's a great place. We're getting some really, really good feedback. Really appreciate people emailing us and tagging us on Instagram and also LinkedIn. It's been a great place for that. But I really appreciate you coming on. It's been great to connect again. Look, your job now, you have to share this podcast. New Zealand business owners, we need to stick together. We need to help each other. And I know you are sharing it because I saw this week we're back in the around top 3, I think, for New Zealand for marketing. That doesn't happen without you sharing it. So I appreciate you sharing it. The more and more people that we're connecting with, I know that because people stop me and say, hey, I really loved this episode. I really loved that episode. So thank you. Really appreciate it. So, all right. Now all you need to do is go out there, have some fun, take action, and as always, celebrate your victories.